Welcome everybody. Another edition of Stay Tuned to El Paso with Priss and Vic.
I'm Priss.
I'm Vic.
Bag of bones. Priss of bones.
You're losing weight.
A little bit, finally.
You're nothing but skin and bones. Obviously there's a reason behind why you're wearing this outfit. It's far from Halloween, my dear.
It's Halloween every day.
That's ministry, I believe. Yes, ministry. Our guest this afternoon on Stay Tuned El Paso is actually somebody that we wanted to get on for a Halloween type show. Just time kind of sort of got away from us in doing it, and I figured we can always talk. Was that it? Did you hear something? Was that strange things could start happening while we're on the? I just actually heard something.
I heard something
fall
weird too.
Off into the. Bring
distance.
him in, Chris Medina. Chris,
hi, Chris.
Did you?
Things like that happen. Things like that happen all the time. That reminds me of a funny story. We'll have to get into. Remind me.
And I've known Chris many, many years. Chris is a good friend of mine. Chris does so many other things in and around town. Chris, we can talk about the stuff you do, but I'm bringing you in today as a ghost hunting expert. Would you call yourself? Is there such a thing as an expert these days?
You know what? I don't know. How about somebody with a lot of experience?
I like
that would be the.
An experience in not so much just ghost hunting, but the paranormal, if you will. And the one thing that I've absolutely loved about Chris, by the way, did you see Priss's outfit she wore for just for
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It brings the spirits out.
I've been dying to wear this.
Dying to wear it. I got you. It's going to be one of those shows. Huh? Chris, one of the things, and I don't know if I've ever told you this prior to now, but Chris and I became fast friends because of our, number one, our respect for each other. And number two, our respect for the paranormal. Even if you don't believe in ghosts, I've always believed there's something else out there. We don't quite understand it. But the one thing that I've always admired the most about Chris is his approach to the paranormal. And to be perfectly honest with you, the fact that you are as religious as you are, you tie the two in together. Where I would imagine that most people would look at one or the other. No, I believe in God, and there's not ghosts. And no, there's ghosts. There's no, the two don't go hand in hand. When in fact, they probably really do in more ways.
I don't think you can have one without the other. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, whether you believe in one faith or another, once the existence of what you are now, whether it changes to a different energy, your soul goes somewhere else, there is a transformation. So that in itself is something above normal, paranormal. I mean, that's it.
Have you ever had to struggle? We'll get into your history with ghost hunting and everything here in just a few, but have you ever had to struggle with the two separate beliefs? Has one ever told you, dictated over and said, no, this cannot be? Now you're, the religion in you, now you're dealing with the devil. Now you're dealing with negative stuff. Has it ever fought you in its own way?
No. And in fact, it's always brought itself back to me. Vic, I mean, you know that I've been out of this for a bit, although every so often someone comes and say, hey, can you come and do me a favor? Can you come look at my house? Or this is going on, or hey, look at this video. It all happens, that I've even had people come to me at work asking me for, advice. So it's always something that's
they're keeping tied in.
It always does. And it's one of those things that, I mean, heck, when we first started doing it and we would go into new locations, they would know I was there and they'd know my name before I'd even introduced myself. So yeah, the spirits, the ghosts.
Wow.
They're summoning him.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the past. Let's talk about, because I'm going to start off, number one, by saying one of two things. First off, in our situation where we are right now in the city, we've gone virtual with Chris. We wanted to have Chris come hang out with us. Chris is in El Paso. Chris is right up the street from where I live. But in the temperature of where the city is right now, we figured it would be best to have Chris doing this virtual. So number one, we apologize for the quality of anybody's connection as we have the interview. I know it's computer, and that's where we are right now. Everybody's been dealing with that for the past couple of months. That's number one. Number two, this is actually going to be a two-parter because I want you to come back, and I'm saying it right now because I want you to come back and share with the actual hard evidence, if you can, that you have accumulated over the years in the various locations. And the reason why I make those faces, and even Priscilla gets it, can you call paranormal in what you do a true science? Is there true evidence? Is there anything, and I know it's a bit of a loaded question, yeah, but you explain.
Yeah, so no. In a nutshell, I cannot give a science-based fact about what we've captured. Because if you want to call it science, if you want to call it fact, it would have to be something that would have to be reproduced over and over again with the same conditions. And unfortunately, there's no way to do that in the atmosphere that we have during an investigation. So there's no controls in an investigation. You try to do as much as you can to control the environment, to avoid any type of noises, sounds that could maybe come from outside your area, so that way it's a little bit more understanding for the person who's asked us to be there, or the person whose location we are investigating for them, or just for our fun. That's there's no science. It couldn't be science. Any scientist would shoot it down in a heartbeat. So the only thing that I can give is have a lot of experience that while I was there, I heard this. While I was there, I didn't hear it, and then all of a sudden afterwards, I did. And it takes a team. Vic, and so you may not know this, but it's hours and hours of very tedious work. So the stuff that you'll be hearing and you'll be seeing is not mine 100%. This is gathered evidence from many people that worked with us and helped us and had carried the same, excitement for this type of investigation and this type of looking and searching for answers for people that I did.
It's not an exact science. There's no way that you said it has to be proven. I guess if that is a true definition of what science is, it has to be proven over and over and over, constantly, and you can't do that with the paranormal. But now, are there at least, and I'm trying to figure out how to question this, are there at least general consensus about things in the paranormal community? Kind of like what I'm leading to is, everybody always talks about, I heard 3 knocks. Things happened in 3. Well, is there a general consensus that 3 because the Holy Trinity, or things happen at 3:00 because it's the bewitching hour, or everybody believes orbs are what they are, they're specks of dust, or are there things that the community even in of itself says that's not true?
So this is kind of where I draw the line between science and a belief, a faith-based belief. I don't think anybody can say ghosts are going to knock at 3 times. Why? If Priscilla, I'll ask you this question: if you were a ghost, would you be up at 3?
Well, I'm up at 3 anyway.
Probably. I'll try to sleep at night.
and then if you were a ghost, why would you knock 3 times? That's just it's an arbitrary number that I don't understand. I don't know. I think everybody just kind of likes to grab at something and
create their own kind of.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'll if I hear 3 knocks at 3, and I hear that every single time I'm doing an investigation, well then maybe
the 3 is somehow prominent, but right now it's nothing that you see on a regular basis when you do the investigations, correct?
Right. it's funny, with TikTok, I see TikTok and I see all the paranormal stuff still comes up on my TikTok, and things that happen that you have no explanation. And when you wake up at 3 o'clock, it's because a ghost is
watching you,
watching you.
Oh, I just have to use the restroom.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's usually my bladder. It's not a ghost.
I drank too much. I got to go to the restroom.
Well, how did you? So let's get into it, because I have the questions about the quote unquote more famous paranormal investigators that are out there and their methods of how they do things. But let's get into how you got started here. Born and raised in and around El Paso, obviously.
Right. So my whole life, things had happened and I couldn't understand them. I couldn't explain them. And I guess the first time I experienced things with my mom was kind of the first time I thought, it was an experience that happened where somebody was there to validate it with me. My great grandmother was passing, and we were at her house. It was my mom's turn to watch that night. So she asked me if she could please, if I'd go with her. So I said, fine. We were in one of the rooms in her house, and we had already gone to bed, and we both woke up because we heard the back door open. And we were both, where we were sleeping in the bed, we were both facing the hallway, and we heard the footsteps walk from the back door through the hallway, like right by where we were looking up, and into my great grandmother's room, and then stopped, and then back out the door, back down the hallway and out the door. And then the second the door closed, the alarm went off for my IV. And we both kind of looked at each other like, what the heck was that? It was one of those things that was like, what? So we kind of shrugged it off, reset the machine, and went back to sleep. Never really discussed it. And then my father passed. And my mom was kind of in one of those, she was not really, she didn't know what to do. She had nobody at home anymore. She'd been taking care of my father, so she didn't know what to do. I found in the newspaper at the time, way back when there was,
paper,
printed newspaper that you could see. They had it was a paranormal 101 at the library downtown. So I said, Mom, let's go. So let's go check it out. Let's see what it is. And that's
willingly. I wouldn't be able to take my mom with me. There's no way. I'd have to pay her.
My mom is pretty awesome. She's really cool. So we went, and that was the first time I even knew that there was actual groups that did it. Went, heard them, and like everything that I do, I felt like I could do it better, and I felt like it could be done differently. And that's kind of how I said, I joined the group and figured out, what they were doing versus what I thought I could do better. And that's kind of how it all started. I really didn't know much at the time. It was quite funny at the time because I literally had to go through training. This group had, a list of training.
What do they train you with? Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah. So I literally had to go. They had a house that they had concluded had paranormal activity inside of it. And this one person's home would allow them to take you in there, and they would show you how to do it and what to do. And it was pretty surreal. That was when I probably had my first unexplainable experience, because this house was a house where a man and his dog had passed away pretty close to each other. The dog was a Chihuahua. The dog you could call from one room to the other. And it was a really exciting thing to watch. And, I just kept, it was like, you, as each one of those experiences happens, hopefully as an investigator, your brain starts thinking, what else, what else could be doing this? Why is it doing it? Those are the questions
Problem solving. What is this?
Yeah. So I kept, building and building and building. And that's kind of how it all started. The group fell apart. So I decided to form my own group and with some other people. And that's kind of how it all started. And we, I joined a couple of groups and forums online and with people from all over the country, and started getting their advice and through their experiences formulating what I thought should be an approach to an investigation. And it was very different than what was being done here in El Paso.
Usually is.
Yeah.
Just we have our own way of doing things.
So let's just say that of the groups that were in existence at the time, I was not the sensational person. I really wasn't. I don't like to do those types of things. It's facts. If I can prove it, then I prove it. If I don't, I don't. It's kind of one of those things versus, getting all these crazy things involved, and there was a lot of that went on here.
You see a lot of that, or you saw a lot of that here in that time, and that's about the time. And you and I have talked about this before. The paranormal craze, if you will, peaks and drops, and it always seems like obviously it picks up again right before Halloween. September, October, you'll start to see these, but then you still see a lot of these shows, even on a national level, and where I'm leading into, but you see a lot of these shows start to make their revivals again, and the reality shows, if you will, always have to have a different spin. The Osbournes now, they have their own deal, and of course everybody knows and loves or hates Zach Baggins and what he does. You see these ghost adventure, ghost hunting type shows come and go. Is there anyone, and you've made a lot of friends, from these shows throughout the years. You've met some, you've made friends with. Do you value any one show over the other? Do you look at one and go, that's pretty close?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Which ones should I be watching?
All of them. Watch all of them. Is there any? If there's any one person that does it better, or any one group or show that does it better, I wouldn't say that there is or isn't. What I would say is that for everybody to remember that there's a lot of production value in it.
That's true.
It's a show, and that's the one thing,
you gotta
Chris.
Keep people engaged, right?
Yeah, and that's the one thing Chris has always told me. You watch, and again, I'm going to use Zach because I have a love-hate relationship with him. I love to hate him because he does exactly this. You take 8 hours of a day of an investigation from start to end, and maybe even longer, Chris. You know this. Weeks of investigation, really, days, but they condense it into an hour.
An hour, of course.
So how many times, a rhetorical question for you, but how many times have you gone on an investigation or even a tour that you would have set up at Southwestern General Hospital and not a damn thing happens? Except maybe one.
Is that discouraging sometimes?
No, and that's really, when we would have these, well, to answer your first question, yes, it does happen quite a bit. There's 9 times out of 10, nothing's going to happen. And that's just the sad thing. And in fact, when we did the tours at Southwestern General Hospital, I would tell them, this is not a fun house. This is not a haunted house like, the way it used to be at Western Playland, where we're going to get in a little cart and it's going to turn the corner and someone's going to jump out at you. It doesn't happen.
I'm going to jump out.
the first time I went on the tour, that's what I was afraid of. Oh, great. There's going to be a werewolf when we turn the corner. I was more appreciative of the fact that it wasn't that. That's what I was wanting.
Be a loose pit bull because 311 doesn't get their act together. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we would do a whole show, presentation, not a show, a presentation before the whole thing about, the history of the building and the history of the area and the history of what was going on, and show them and let them listen to a couple of clips from the building, and then say, hey, we're going to take you to the areas where we have captured this kind of stuff time after time after time. and I hope that you will be able to experience it. And sometimes these experiences would happen out loud, and sometimes these experiences would happen on a recording, the EVPs that Victor was talking about earlier. Those are the things, and there were plenty of times where doors would fly open. There was plenty of times where you know items would fall. I really wish that it happened more, but it didn't. But yes, you're not going to provoke anything unless you have some type of a relationship with it, whether it be a good or a bad, right? One of the things that I would always tell, and this kind of leads to what Victor was talking about with certain TV personalities, is Priscilla, I've never met you a day in our life. If I just came on and we started talking like we were chatting before and was a completely rude, not nice guy, your thinking of me and your conversation with me would be very different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably.
So why would it be different to somebody who is not physically here with us anymore?
No, absolutely makes sense. Exactly like saying, why am I going to haunt you at 3 a.m? I'll probably come around the summertime at 7 p.m.
It's one of the things
I'm
that
gonna go hide all your beer.
Yeah, you better.
as here's
Tequila.
the best way Chris has ever explained it to me. And Chris, if I mess this up, forgive me. Jump in and fix it if I'm wrong. But the best way, and maybe you can understand this better, Priscilla, working at Smokies when you worked at Smokies, if a guy
I saw a lot of dead people.
a lot of zombies. If a guy walked into the bar right away and started yelling and screaming at everybody,
We have those regulars.
so what would be your first reaction? You wouldn't.
Well, normally we'd ignore them because we already know who it is, but otherwise you get immediately defensive.
Right. So why would you, as a ghost investigator, ghost hunter, if you will,
Makes sense.
jump into a situation and start screaming, come at me, hit me, hit me? You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
type of action
Reaction
are
do you-
you provoking? Yeah.
I got you.
Absolutely.
That makes total sense.
Did I screw that up? Am I right?
No, that was absolutely right. So as I was going through my computers and I was trying to find some stuff to show you, and all the hours and hours of stuff that I have accumulated, one of the things that brought it kind of clicked when I started remembering, oh yeah, that happened. I can remember this. So there was an occasion where we were on the fourth floor in the operating room of the labor and delivery portion of the hospital, and one of the investigators asks a question, and clear as day, you can hear, "Shut up, bitch." And I was thinking about that, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, yeah, you could be a jackass in the next set of whatever you are, yeah, the next form of energy." So
That's funny you
Yeah,
say, because we were getting things ready a couple of days ago. I was sitting with Priss and I was actually playing some of the EVPs that you had sent me that we wanted to have. And by the way, when we're talking about the hospital, I'll come back to this, but when we're talking about the hospital, we're talking about Southwestern General Hospital. Anybody who doesn't know the history behind this hospital has a rich, rich history. And in the paranormal history, it is ripe for the picking of what would be considered a quote unquote haunted hospital. But Priss actually got to hear the EVP you shared with me where
It gave me chills. I was like,
my name gets called out. And
I thought it said something else, but it clearly says
Yeah.
that.
so I don't know who that was in the afterlife calling,
Who hates
saying.
you?
There's a short list.
Who did you?
There's a short list, but there's some names on that list.
that's actually pretty. It's pretty funny that you get those names, you get those circumstances, those called out, and one of the things that I was like, what do I talk about? Like, what are some of the questions? And you brought up an interesting point, Vic, was about the ripeness, the reasoning, why this location may be extra haunted. Well, first of all, I will say this: 99% of the stories that you read online or the stories that you see on TikTok or YouTube are 100% fabricated. I hate to say that, but if you were really, yeah, if you really were to sit down and do the history and take the time to do the real history, the real research, you'll find out that it's false, false.
Fabricated, or at least can be explained away.
Like exaggerated, no?
No. Completely fabricated. I'll give you a perfect example. Yeah, so 6 poles, right? We've all heard that story about the satanic out there by the community college on the gateway, right? It's actually the place that they're talking about. They're actually tiles that came from a building that was demolished downtown, and the owner of the property had put them out there because he thought at one point he would be able to have like a really cool garden area with a barbecue.
See, who would know that?
Right.
Yeah, and the only reason why I knew that story years ago at work, somebody came in and was talking about ghosts and all that, and heard that I had done it, and telling me the stories. He's like, "Well, you really should come out and see my house because I'd love for people to stop coming to my property." It was his
Very
property.
annoying. No, that's kind of unsafe.
No,
Well-
he's like, "No, we're not Satan worshipers, and no, that kind of stuff."
I think you're like that.
It goes back to also the same situation about the house on the west side, the witch's house, that was purposely built backwards, and the backyard faced the front, and all. Well, at least we did. I did. I don't know about everybody, but we all knew about the witch's house up on the mountain on the west side, and it turned out it was, it wasn't a witch's house. But we all grew up hearing that story, they were shooting kids who'd go loiter with shotguns or whatever.
I thought she ate them.
Or,
Yeah.
Hansel and Gretel style.
My favorite is the stories of, I remember I could not stop laughing because I had like 20 people send me pictures of the little girl inside the Albertsons on Montana and Chelsea. I was like really,
I
really.
remember that story.
I'm like, really? Like, that went on about 300 pictures, and she goes to grocery stores.
I know that.
I'm like, come on.
Why is she gonna go there?
So then, while we're talking about the legends here in El Paso, and again, we're getting close to wrapping up. See, I can talk about this stuff all day with Chris.
We just barely scratched the surface.
Not even at the beginning of this, and I can't wait for you to come. I know it's such a major tease, but I can't wait for you to come back and share with us.
Yeah, me too.
Priscilla hasn't seen the picture of Buddy yet. She knows about Buddy, but I haven't showed her the Buddy picture. Ace has seen it. She's only heard 2 or 3 EVPs that I was sharing with. But what are some of, while we're talking about the ones that are basically bullshit, what are some of the ones you think are legit here in town? The El Paso High investigation, that somebody's in El Paso High. Somebody committed suicide there. Can you for a fact attest to anything that may be true?
As far as El Paso High, no. I've never really. It's kind of one of those things. Like, do I want to expend the energy to go through and because we're talking about hours. You're not talking about certain time frames. You're talking
It's
about
like a
hours.
commitment to a relationship. It's like, I'm gonna date you for a few months.
Yeah,
It's almost like
pretty much. It's a lot of time, and I don't know much about El Paso High. I know that I've heard there's been plenty of stories. I can tell you that of all the schools that I've had the opportunity to investigate, the majority of them do have something going on in them, whether it's just because there's a lot of energy in them or not. I have no idea. I don't know of a single kid that would want to go haunt their school if they were dead. I'd be like somewhere else. I'd be like, let's go to Disneyland, right?
right.
No, let's go back to school.
El Paso High.
Then let me ask you this, because you hit on something. I asked you this for the first time a couple of weeks ago. We did something on Facebook Live a while back. But so let me ask you then, in your opinion, the Chris Medina, quote unquote, experienced opinion, what is a ghost? Is it one specific thing, or is it a possibility of other things? I'm kind of setting you up here.
Right. I don't know. I can tell you that my formulated answer would be is that if it was at one point a human, not an animal, then it is something that is not been able to pass from here to heaven or to eternal damnation, hell. If you purgatory, if you will, to use a phrase Victor uses a lot.
Or you're stuck in the middle, right?
Yeah,
We're all in purgatory right now.
Yeah. So that would be it. But if you were to think, if you were to think of as a religious person, somebody that has faith and believe that when you die, you pass to heaven. How many humans have died since God created the world? And how many of those had the purest of souls to move on? And how many of them didn't? That's a lot of people.
What about?
So think about.
I was going to say, what about a residual energy, an energy that just keeps repeating? And again, I don't know if it was you who explained it to me or somebody from wherever in my history, but you have the old cassette tape that you'd record over, and sometimes it didn't record over perfectly, and you still heard something in the background. Am I seeing something that just the energy's repeating and it's doing the same thing over and over? It doesn't know how to get away from doing that same energy, a leftover energy.
Right. So there's the two different types of phenomena that could happen. A residual type, which is what you're just asking me about, and an intelligent type, which is something that has interaction with you. So the residual type is basically something that's an energy that's trapped. Your voice is energy. Everything that you do is energy. And we know that energy transfers, it transforms. So if I throw out my voice and something captures that energy, and then at a later time when the conditions are exactly ripe for it, it can release that energy, and then it's recorded or heard. That's that residual type energy that you're talking about. So yeah, it could just be a recording of the history of what's been going on.
Almost like an echo, like an active echo that never went away.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Isn't it amazing? We got to bring Chris back in.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. That's why I can kind of understand why you don't get so scared if you see like the intellectual part of it, not just like the ooby joobies.
The spirit side of it, if you will.
Yeah, you kind of accept it like humans.
Yeah, one of those things is like me. My kids hate this about me. My wife hates this about me. I don't watch scary movies, not because I don't want to be afraid of them, but because honestly, when you've had to look at things from the perspective that I've had to look at things, it aggravates me.
It'd be annoying to watch it, huh? Like, oh,
extremely, or even just like, why would you logically make that decision? It's that funny commercial. Let's get into the car that's running. No, let's go hide where all the blades and chainsaws are. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It gives me such anxiety to just people make.
I want to relax with the movie, not get mad.
So then, to that vein, then, how do you feel about, again, the Zachs out there, the guys out there doing the reality TV shows? Can you watch those?
I could. I have. I mean, with the kids, they want me to watch it. But then again, I will let them believe what they want to believe, and through their experience. Now, Vic, Sydney would do the tours with us, and she would lead a group of people at 12 years old through these things. She knew, she had a pretty well, formulated idea of what things were going and what was right, what was wrong. But I know, and I can give them their props that, hey, they've made it. I mean, they've created a voice. May not be my voice, but they've created a voice for the belief that maybe there is something out there. And if at one point it makes somebody think, hey, so there is something after I die, and maybe I should be a little bit better of a person, then I guess it's good. And that's changed from before, the way I used to think. But
we
I
can
guess you
do
get older, you get wiser.
we can delve on again. I like to pick on Zach so much. I've never met him, and of course, I'd probably fold like a cheap suitcase if I ever did. But he's taken something that everybody's been doing, and let's be honest, since the witch hunts of way back in the day, you know, witch Ouija boards and all that. This isn't a new phenomenon. This has been going on probably since the beginning of time. People want to know what happens next, the cavemen drawings and so on.
Well, since exorcisms too,
And
right?
yeah, so on and so forth. But at least Zach has, if I can kind of sort of expound on what Chris has said, done something with it on a different level, even if it's to the point of having a haunted museum of all these
And that's
articles.
respectable because he's keeping it, you know,
Making
in
a couple
lives,
of bucks
right?
off of it too, keeping it in the front line, if you will. You know, now a lot of his shows are about the pandemic and things that are happening because of the pandemic. So he's still kind of chugging along and stuff like that. And we have
As we all are.
we have our mutual friends, our Scots that are out there that are still doing what they're doing and stuff too, Chris. So slowly starting to wrap up here with Stay Tuned to El Paso. Chris, you got to come back in. You got to come back in.
I'm so
Absolutely.
excited. I'll have a different outfit.
I would-
I'm just kidding.
There you go.
She'll just wear a
I
white
love-
sheet.
I'll be a ghost next
Yes.
time.
That's what I thought. I thought I was going to see the ghost, classic ghost. She was white. That's what I was
Right.
looking for.
You got a mission.
I believe
You know
me,
what's
it's already working.
I know it.
I'd like to share some of the stories of the locations here in El Paso that are no longer in existence that we had the opportunity to investigate. Asarco was one of them. Asarco was an amazingly haunted place.
Bet.
I can't even. I've told
I
you this
can
before.
imagine.
I'm highly jealous of you and the team who got to go do that. I probably wouldn't have done it anyway, just because of the physicality of moving around, the way you guys had to move around at Asarco. To hear those stories now, and again,
Looking forward.
get into those EVPs because some of those
Those
EVPs
EVPs are great.
you will get.
I'm gonna bring an extra blanket because I'm gonna be shaking.
Yeah.
I already know.
The one. Well, I'm not even going to say. We'll save them for
Yeah,
the
we
next
gotta
show.
save them.
Big time tease. I understand, Chris. Thanks a lot for spending
Thank
time
you,
with us.
Chris.
No, you want to
Thank
come
you
in.
very much.
No, you want to come and do this before Halloween, and if we still have the show around by Halloween, I guess again next year, hopefully with a better world that we will be living in, we'll be able to do that. But of course,
Yes.
I think the one thing that I've learned the most from you is that the paranormal world isn't just about one time a season; it's going on all the time.
All the time.
Absolute. Thanks. Our guest this afternoon, listening to Stay Tuned El Paso with Priss and Vic, has been Chris Medina. Also, if you need your windshield repaired, you can give him a call. Cheap plug there for him at Southwest Auto Glass. Figured we just throw that in. Maybe you guys will do a little bit of sponsorship with us. Thanks to our extraordinaire producer, Ace, behind the scenes, running things for us. Our intern, Jennifer, of course, the Downtown Spaces, the Herald Post. Musical director, David Hollywood Madrid. Chris, always a pleasure. I get to see you soon. When things get better, we'll have a lunch.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And
She said she wants to crash the lunch. I might not even be invited at this point. Goodness gracious. I see myself getting kicked out.
We'll go have ribs.
And with that, you're listening to Stay Tuned El Paso. We'll see you guys again real soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks,
Care,
everybody.
guys. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Stay Tuned El Paso with Priss and Vic.
I'm Priss.
I'm Vic. You know the best way to connect with us? Follow along on all of our social media websites.
And if you have a guest that you want us to interview, please, by all means, let us know.
Like and subscribe to all of our websites. We'll be checking it very, very often right here. Stay tuned, El Paso.